All righty, moving on. Louis, I would love to try ayahuasca to help me advance spiritually, but at the same time, I am quite cautious and risk averse. Do you recommend ayahuasca as a method for spiritual growth? Are there real long-term spiritual benefits to be gained from taking it? Great question. I don't know that we've ever covered this in the webcasts. I know people ask me in person fairly often, and I speak readily about it, but I don't know that I've ever given a discourse on it. I can't remember it. But anyhow, that having been said, it's a very good question. It's very popular right now. Several of my disciples and students have used it. Some are still using it. Thankfully, with only one or two exceptions, they're smart enough and wise enough to bring that vehicle for what they're hoping to be spiritual growth and healing and transformation to the feet of the master, so that master, with his or her, in this case mine, his divine all-seeing eyes, can alchemically measure the exact time, manner, form, and set the whole stage and create a vortex, a sacred vortex to guide that. And so, again, with all three, with four exceptions in the last 20 years have not. They came to me and then just kicked me to the curb and went to their own devices. And ended up in all four cases becoming pretty much drug addicts. Because they were just indulging in it like they indulge in everything else: alcohol, sex, pot, other drugs, but just calling it sacred medicine because it's ayahuasca. Well, because it's ayahuasca doesn't make it sacred medicine. It being treated sacredly is what makes it sacred medicine. When you're taking it like a garbage pail junkie, you are a garbage pail junkie. There was an amazing shaman in Peru. I was sending the few people I endorsed it with, and I'll get to that in a moment. I was sending to him, and he was carrying on a lineage that went back a few hundred years. And this man was such a beautiful man, a true shaman, a really Christed being. He passed on, and he was in the middle of training his daughter to take over his ministry, which I believe she has, but I haven't had any contact with them. But he was the real deal, and there was no fooling around in that one. He monitored and guided every step of the way, and people had profound transformations. Now let me get a little more specific. You were asking me, do I recommend ayahuasca? Okay, as a rule of thumb, I do not endorse and support any drugs, recreational drugs, whether they're plant medicine. I mean, alcohol is plant medicine. It's made from grain. Do you see what I mean? There are uses that many things have, and I have each person who comes to me, I look at the whole milieu of their consciousness, their circumstances, where their blockages are, where their fears are, where the strengths, the weaknesses, and I create a whole package, and that may be one part of it for certain people. But it's the same with bringing them to different healers and facilitators. I have a whole medicine bag full of healers and facilitators of all types: therapists, kinesiologists, naturopaths, all kinds of stuff, hypnotherapists, different types of shaman, and then I'll create a package for each person that may include that. Now, what would lean me toward allowing and endorsing, let's say, ayahuasca, and there are other psychedelics too that I might on a given occasion. That one's very readily available, as is Wachuma, and I have used them, not myself in my body, but used them for people. And normally, the exception I make, and it is not that often for students, is when I see that the emotional body is so cryogenically frozen, they have virtually no access to their feeling body. And that block, it's like a cast iron steel plate that prevents them not only from feeling and connecting to themselves so they can't access their wounds. I mean, they might scratch the surface like a chicken scratching in the yard, but they're not going to get more than a millimeter into the earth of the inner sanctum of where their wounds are eating away at them like cancer. and eventually create cancer on the physical. But also that same frozen emotional body oftentimes, if not most times, also prevents them from truly connecting to source, not only inside themselves, but to the divine. So they're just frozen there in this limbo. And in cases like that, it's usually been almost all cases like that where I will allow someone to go there, but I will handpick where they go and who they do it with and how much and when and space it out. And then I give them a whole prayer ceremony and invocation to do. I give them a lens to put on themselves physically, spiritually, a lens through which to hold and see and guide this journey. And then I'm with them. And every single one I've done it with has seen, felt, and heard me all through their ceremony. If they're doing it in concert with me, because I'm guiding it. So I have used it as a vehicle to help people crack open that cryogenically frozen feeling body, and that gives them access to create an opening so that now the hand of God can reach in and mine and anyone else I send them to. So there has never been a single person, I've been doing this over 30 years now, there's never been a single person for whom I have welcomed and invited it to be a sustained practice, ongoingly in their lives. It's a stepping stone and a vehicle to open them so that they can access the divine, access their inner selves. And it can work in that way. Again, provided it's being guided and mentored by someone responsible, provided the ceremony itself is being guided by someone who is responsible, and this is not being treated like garbage pail junkie, which it's sadly, this plant medicine did come from Aboriginals, and now it's become like a pollution, especially in the U.S. And it's really, really sad because it didn't start out that way. And there are still places where it's very pure and very protected and very sacred, and the people all hold it that way. So again, it's about intention. It's about consciousness. So, and people, will treat marijuana that way too. It's my plant medicine. And they think that gives them permission to be a junkie and just be stoned into oblivion 24/7 and say, well, it's plant medicine. It's not pot. It's not a drug. It's my medicine. It's like, well, and alcohol is that wino's medicine in the gutter too. So, and that's plant medicine. So you're even. It's about intention. And are you using it as a vehicle to heal? Or are you using it as a vehicle to hide and avoid and escape? That's the bullseye right there. And that will show you which category you're in. And that's something anyone can ask themselves. Let's see. Is it a method for spiritual growth? I think I've just said that. Yes, it can be a very powerful vehicle when guided properly and when used correctly and with the right intention. It can be very, very powerful. Are there long-term spiritual benefits to be gained from taking it? Yes, the one I'll recap, but I've already said it. It can open you to your higher faculties and to higher dimensions. And again, for certain periods of time, once that muscle, let's call it a muscle, has developed, a muscle in consciousness has developed, that person now has attained and acquired the ability to access other dimensions and to go within themselves, and eventually can drop the training wheels and do it without the ayahuasca. And that's the intention. So let's see. There you have it. I think I've covered all of that, what you asked. Thank you for that question. It was a really, really good one.